so that's not working. But guess we're live. For some reason, I tried to do the intro and it would not play. Just par for the course today. So, welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Book Geeks podcast. I am one of your hosts, J.W. Sims, and we have with us on that side of me, Jonathan Freeman Anderson. If we're doing like the old Sports Center coast to coast today.
Yeah.
So, Specs is supposed to be here. I don't know. And Joey was having problems with his headset. So, it looks like it's just us two.
Well, I could do what I got with the news, and we could go over the book if you want. I know
right ahead.
What?
Go ahead. Go with the news. That's where we're heading next, anyway.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's not too crazy. A lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about is on comics and a little bit off comics. So I'll start out with there's the new Indiana Jones movie that they're working on. I think it's something like The Ring of Destiny or something like that. But John Williams is the composer, and he says that they're going to do reshoots to change the ending, so that's going to change the music. There's that. Doctor Who. I got some Doctor Who news. They're moving into production with the new Doctor after doing the little sort of transition that they did with David Tennant, and Disney Plus has picked up Doctor Who to distribute and has infused their budget with 3 times what they normally pay per season. So you're going to see a whole more elevated production value. And it's not to say that Doctor Who hasn't always had their various levels of production value. When Matt Smith was on, the budget was crazy. So that'll be interesting. Russell T Davies is the producer, is really excited about all that. And it's going to be a Black Doctor.
Yeah, I know one of the things when they first had mentioned about Disney that a lot of people got worried that it's going to become American. What's the word? Americanized.
I mean, I actually auditioned back in the day for an American Doctor Who that they were trying to form into some sort of side venture that might get picked up by a network. It didn't go anywhere. I think Torchwood was the closest that they came to trying to have an American sort of thing, because they released that on Fox, and Sci-Fi. And then Black Adam had some, I guess, terrible responses on social media, and The Rock is going hard trying to defend that movie, and he's also decided not to do the cameo in the new Shazam, which is kind of silly. But he's also I don't know, I guess there's some controversy about what's going to happen next for him, considering Henry Cavill had a cameo in Black Adam. And Henry Cavill thinks that maybe The Rock had some intentions of his own that isn't playing out, that the DC isn't going to go the way he wanted to, DCU. Yeah. But James Gunn,
Yeah, I've seen that also they said it's pretty much a done deal that there's not going to be a Black Adam 2. Mainly because The Rock quit following James Gunn and
all of it,
Warner Brothers on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't really think Twitter is much of a platform as it used to be, anyway.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But yeah, so of course the shakeup at DC has gotten a lot of varieties of different people wondering what's going to happen next. James Gunn has hinted at doing Kingdom Come as the next storyline, which would require them to recast anyway, because that whole storyline is in the future. And the nature of that is such a higher budget, so we'll see what happens. But both Wonder Woman and Henry Cavill or Superman were cut out of the new Flash, so their cameos are no longer there. And Ben Affleck has alluded that he's not going to be playing Batman, but he worked out a deal possibly to direct one of the future DCU films. So that should be good for everybody's follow through. I mean, Henry Cavill put out a whole statement, saying it's time to move on and somebody else is going to, take the part, but he loved playing Superman and all that.
And then right after that, did you see what they announced with Henry Cavill?
Was the Warhammer?
Yeah, he got cast in the Warhammer 4,000, whatever that is. Show that's I think it's on Amazon Prime.
Well, he's got to do something because he bowed out of The Witcher,
Yeah. And
I mean, I posted that it's time for Tom Cruise to call him back up and grow that mustache. Yeah. Oh, so in Marvel news, Donald Glover is going to play Hypno Hustler in an upcoming Spider-Verse spinoff series.
Okay.
I guess it's a more an obscure character, but it's kind of a fun like disco era thing. This should be cool because Donald Glover's hilarious. They do that
Yeah.
right. Oh, and they released the trailer for the new Spider-Verse movie.
Yeah.
And what do you think about it?
I don't know. We don't see enough of it, but it supposedly has over 100 versions, spider versions in it.
Well, the gist that I got of it is the primary alternative spider people that are going to play like important characters. I mean, all those other spider things are going to be there, probably getting a line here and there, but Spider-Man 2099 and Spider-Gwen are like the two main, involved characters for this new film. And I honestly think after I saw the trailer that it was too much. Like they would have been fine if they just had those two and then like alluded to like a third movie bringing in more. But I mean, when the first movie came out, you had Spider Pig, and Noir, Spider-Man Noir. I thought that wasn't like the group that they had was like enough. You know what I mean?
Oh, and Peter B. Parker is in it.
Yeah.
So, who else did I remember seeing? There's been rumors that the movie Spider-Man are supposed to be in it.
Right. Yeah. So that'll be interesting because I'm a big Tobey fan, and I think there's still rumors about Spider-Man 4 happening with Sam Raimi. And I'm on the Tobey train. Andrew Garfield, he's a great actor, but I think he's kind of full of himself in a way that doesn't fit with the Peter Parker character as much. And Sony's funny because they're like, let's put Tom Holland in everything. I saw a spoof of him as the God of War. And did you see the new Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special?
Yes.
They had a God of War reference in there.
Yes, because they called
Drax.
Drax the God of War. Yeah.
Yeah. That was great. I really, I think they did a fun little deal there. I'm excited for the new Guardians movie. I don't know if you saw the trailer for that.
No, not for the movie. I haven't.
Yeah, there's a new trailer for the new Guardians movie.
I might have seen it. I've watched a bunch of trailers over the week. So,
well, it's a lot of a part of it anyway is Rocket's like storyline. So you get to see like him as like a baby raccoon, and hopefully.
Oh, that's right. Well, he's not a raccoon. Remember?
Sorry, he gets. Yeah, don't call him that. Oh my God, Kevin Bacon. See, what's interesting to me is Kevin Bacon doing what he did, while simultaneously he's technically part of the like extended MCU. If you think about X-Men as being a part of it, as him as Sebastian Shaw.
Yeah, and then with him, all the MCU people are now part of the 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, all the way. I was like, this is perfect, And I haven't seen Mantis be that visible as far as a character, so this is really cool. I love seeing all those people back. You know what I mean? I know it's intense makeup. I'm pretty sure like what's his face? The guy that plays Drax, Batista. He said that he doesn't like doing all the makeup on the chest. So there's a lot of parts of that movie where he's like wearing a shirt and you just see his head, hands. So
when he had the sweater, like the Christmas sweater on.
Yeah, that makes it a lot easier. And then did we talk about the Wonder Woman news last time?
I don't remember, but we know
Patty Jenkins wrote an email to Warner Brothers with just like a hyperlink to Wikipedia, and the Wikipedia article she linked was just labeled character arc, and that was her like drop the mic moment, like because she was on set and she was trying to tell her ideas, and you could say there's like creative differences, but I guess all of her ideas were being shot down, and it was just going nowhere for what she had already established with the first two films. I mean, debatably, you could say the second film was not that great, but
it had its moments.
But yeah, it had its moments. I actually really liked what's her face as the cheetah.
But the problem with that, you don't really get to see her as Cheetah,
right,
until that end, and then it's so dark you can't see her anyway. So it's
so I don't know. It seems like everything's getting like kind of shooken up, but I'm excited for like the next sort of things that they're doing. I guess Fantastic Four is going to have Silver Surfer in it. The rumors are.
That's the rumors, yeah.
And they've already started looking at casting for the Invisible Woman. Personally, I don't even mind if they go back to like the original cast, if they just have them act better, get a better director. Like Michael Chiklis was great as the Thing. You know what I mean? The idea of these people were really good choices originally.
Yeah, actually, I'd love to see Steve Rogers play the Human Torch.
Who?
Captain America be the Human Torch.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Thanks for making me aware of this. That was good. I like that. You remember the Deadpool 2 thing, right?
Yeah.
That would have been awesome if he came in and auditioned for X-Force as the Human Torch.
Yes. I liked the one part. Is it the first one or the second one when he goes to the X Mansion and he asks him, "Is it what do you say, McAvoy or Stewart?"
Yeah, McAvoy. Yeah. Well, there's a fun story in the second one. He walks through the X-Men mansion again, right? And he's like, "Oh, why do the studio can only afford the two of you, Colossus and Megasonic Warhead? I never see them, right?" So just so happened that at the same time that they were shooting Deadpool 2, like 30 miles away in Canada, they were also shooting the new X-Men, the last Dark Phoenix movie, and so you saw the quick shot where like McAvoy shuts the door and all the X-Men are in there. Well, that was a green screen in the mansion when they walk by, when Deadpool walks by, and what you saw was footage from the other set that they cut into Deadpool 2. So that's always pretty, like they and then
just because of that scene, all those people get all those residual checks from Deadpool 2.
Yeah, a little bit, sure. Well, like he was trying to get Chris Evans, but instead he got Brad Pitt to play the Vanisher. Yeah. And Brad Pitt said he'll do it for scale, which is like the lowest pay you can get as an actor on set. And if Ryan Reynolds buys him a cup of coffee, so not a PA, but have Ryan Reynolds. So, I mean, I just like that. It looks like, with the new Deadpool and like Hugh Jackman, there's a ton of opportunities to like do this right, and there's a rumor about, The Thing. I talked about that being in. So I think what they're gonna do for the Fantastic Four is introduce them like through different little cameos, but we'll see.
Well, yeah, because we already got, Mr. Fantastic, so we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, they've already started it,
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else right now off the top of my head. I mean, there's all that stuff that's like I watched the new Doom Patrol.
I forgot that started.
Oh my God. I'm like, these are great actors. I mean, they're pulling off some of the dumbest storylines. Like they're
that
literally
show is so good.
It's so good and so ridiculous. They're fighting zombie butts.
Yeah.
And we're like, what the
Or like the first season that you had that like homosexual town that could travel.
Oh yeah, they still have that. It looks like this season's gonna have
that. Like, how's a town?
I did want to mention. Well, yeah, no, it's a whole. That's the mutant or whatever. That's the thing. I'm so confusing. Well, what is it? I was gonna say, like, when I watched Black Adam, I really thought like Hawkman and Dr. Fate like were really well done. I mean, they clearly were like ripping off of Marvel's Falcon a little bit with the Hawkman.
Yeah.
And just the nature of his movements, not because he was black, but because of how they show him flying and his activity in fights. It was like, oh, this is beautiful with the gold wings, but I'm getting a lot of Falcon vibes,
Yeah.
And like Dr. Fate for sure had a few Doctor Strange vibes, like you're like, okay, DC, this is you doing your version of magic and the Avengers, if you will, Justice Society. I forgot about Atom Smasher. I forgot about these characters,
Yeah. The only reason I remember Atom Smasher is because he was on. He was played by Edge, the wrestler Edge, on I think the season premiere of season 2 of The Flash, season 2 or 3. That's the only reason I like that was even close to the front of my mind.
Yeah.
But, and if anyone doesn't know, Black Adam is on HBO Max right now, so you can watch it for free. So. I did find one. I was hoping Joey was here because this would be something he's into. But it's weird because CW killed off all their shows, really, except for the Superman and Lois show. But Gotham Knights is a new CW, DC show, and it's starting. It premieres March. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I think it was like March 14th or something. It's the same night as Superman, so they're going to be like the two shows still on CW.
Yeah, well, I mean,
but
I don't know.
When I
Like,
first heard it,
go ahead. Hello? Did you freeze?
go ahead. 'Cause I'm looking for something.
Oh no, I was just saying, like, James Gunn's like on like every day he's trying to put out new information, and his like number one thing, he says, like, the most important character right now for him is Superman. And I mean, that's the original, like, I guess you'd call it keystone for DC. It's always been Superman, and I think they've failed on some level, besides like the CW stuff, to like really crack how successful Marvel's been with their flagship characters, you know, Spider-Man and Wolverine and stuff like that. But
I think the main reason DC has had trouble like getting a foothold is continuity.
Yeah.
Like, they give up on stuff so quick. Like, you know, there's no, like, everything in Marvel all is connected. Like, you remember, that's how they said it's all connected. Whereas DC, it's not. You have, you know, you had the Zack Snyder stuff, but then you had this other Batman that's over here, and this other Joker that's over here, you know, and then you had these CW shows that were, you know, and none of it, like,
connected. even the Marvel TV shows, you know, they attempted to have some interlinking stuff. Like when you watch the original Netflix Marvel shows, they referred to all the Avengers stuff in the shows. They referred to New York.
The first one or two seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was like directly tied to the MCU movies. So,
I mean, the entire Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. storyline in the end of it all still would bring in, you know, you'd still see Sam Jackson occasionally, you know, you'd still see they do their part. They bring in like a Asgardian or something, you know, some sub character from the movies. And it was, I don't know, like you look at Doom Patrol and they've got a new guy playing Cyborg, you know, and I don't mind that they have a new guy playing Cyborg, but then is that guy going to be in a new thing in the future? You know, how do they cast it? I mean, at least with the MCU, they even brought back Daredevil, you know, and made it clear that they're not abandoning these characters.
Yeah. I never liked the idea of having Cyborg on that show to begin with.
Yeah, it's bizarre to me.
One, because you already have a robot guy on the team.
Right.
And two, Cyborg was never part of Doom Patrol. If anything, he should be on that Titan show.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't even know if the Titans got renewed.
Yeah, I just watched the last season, or this season, season 4. I hope that wasn't the end. I hope it was like a mid-season finale, because it was garbage. Like, if that was the season finale, it like ended in a very weird way, like very anticlimactic.
Well, that's why, like, before we meet next time, speaking of anticlimactic, I don't know what happened, but I got to catch up on The Walking Dead so I can come back and talk about like the series finale and all that. I never finished watching. I fell off like in the middle of season 10. And you know, I go back.
That's about where I was. And I went right before the series finale for the last 3 episodes or something. I went through and caught all up so I could watch.
Oh, okay, so you did see the series finale.
Yeah. And so now I'm getting caught up on Fear the Walking
Dead's actually pretty good.
I didn't watch it for like. Yeah, season 6 was really good. Season 7 has been, you know, there's a lot of like character arc changes that is kind of questionable for me, but we'll see how season 8.
I'm a fan of that actor Coleman Domingo, and he's like one of the. I think he might be the last one. Him and Ruben Blades maybe, but like on Fear the Walking Dead, the original. Or the mom came back, right?
Yeah, the mom. Well, I haven't to that episode yet, but I know she comes back, and Felicia was still there. But
but I read on Instagram that like I guess she had her last episode at some point, so you're going to see that.
I figured it was coming. No, I got to the point where she got bit, and then she cut off her arm, but she was still like sick, so she don't think she got it in time. So,
well, I mean, all those spinoffs and all that stuff, it's kind of wild how quickly the show's viewership dropped off. And I looked at some research, and they report that like they were in their highest numbers they'd ever seen a show like this, and almost immediately after the episode of Negan killing Glenn, the viewership dropped off dramatically.
Yeah, a lot of that because I used to be like one of the largest Facebook groups for The Walking Dead. Like I was one of the admins in there, and when that happened, well, first they kept teasing Glenn dying, like like it was just like, ugh. And then when they finally did it, and first they make it be Abraham, and then in case no one's seen it, I hope I'm not spoiling it for you.
I mean, it's a little,
Yeah, but then a lot of people said it was too graphic when he killed Glenn. And that's what
it was very graphic,
and that's what turned a lot of people off of it.
I mean,
I just think the storytelling went downhill. Like Negan is my favorite character of all time in the comics of that, and they started off good with him, but now it's just like.
Well, isn't it something like that in the storyline where they jump to the future and he's a prisoner?
Yeah, they do that in the comic. They jump ahead like 10 years. They actually do 2 jumps. They jump then, and that's when you see Rick is older. He's got like the beard, and he's got something on his arm. I don't remember what. Like it might be a fake arm, like a robotic kind of thing. And he walks with a cane. And then after he dies, which I don't care, Kirkman is one of the best people at surprising you in books because he doesn't let anything out. Heck, you didn't even know that was the final issue of The Walking Dead. It was actually in previews for 3 more months.
Wow.
Like he actually had covers made up and solicited it through previews.
Right.
And it ended, and it was a weird number. It was like 167 or like. It was just like, what? And you read it, and that was the end. And you're like, what do you mean? What happened?
Oh my God. Yeah. That's the worst.
But it jumps ahead in that issue too, to like when Carl is an adult and stuff.
Oh yeah, that's the worst part. You know, that Carl character, that actor who played Carl, his parents moved to Atlanta and had him scheduled to go to college out there, and he anticipated, because of the comics the way they were, being on the show for a long time, and then they just kill him off right after he had done all this stuff in his personal life to be more involved.
Well, he wanted to leave because of school, because he wanted to go to college, and but he was in the final episode.
Oh, okay. Well, they brought everybody back?
Well, no, you don't know it's him. He has a cameo. He was just on set to see everybody the last day.
Oh.
And they're like, get in there and just get in the background. He's like, what? So there was some other actor's hat he took on. And if you go, I didn't know the first till after the show, but if you go back and look at it, he has his hat on. He's working in the garden.
Oh, okay. I'll watch it. Oh, in the first episode?
No, the final episode.
Oh, yeah. Did they bring Morgan back for the last episode?
No.
Okay.
He was at the after thing, that Talking Dead.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody came back for that except for Rick. I think he was the only one.
Well, I think they kind of, it was the pandemic, really.
They talked to him he was there, he did a recorded thing, but it was really weird seeing some people come back, the mother, his wife, whatever her name was.
Oh yeah, from forever ago, the wife
from the first season.
That hooked up with his partner.
Yeah, so he wasn't there either.
Bernthal didn't make it.
Yeah, Berthel, but she came out with Chandler Riggs and whoever the girl is that plays, and it was just weird because she hasn't seen any of them. Most of the people there she didn't even know. She never worked with them,
right?
Because she was gone so early, and she hadn't seen Chandler probably forever. So he's an adult now. He's directing things.
Yeah.
But but anyways, Gotham Knights. I was talking about that. So that comes out March 14th on the CW, and I thought because it came out the same time as the game, it was kind of going to be the same thing, but it really isn't. It's this is the synopsis they have here. It says, in Gotham Knights, in the wake of Bruce Wayne's murder, his rebellious adopted son forges an unlikely alliance with the children of Batman's enemies when they are all framed for killing the Caped Crusader. and then it tells you who the characters are. There's Turner Hayes. I have no idea who that is. Stephanie Brown, which I do know that. That's spoiler. I mean, it's not a spoiler. That's her name.
Is the character, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's Julia Dent, which is Harvey Dent's daughter, but her villain name was the Joker's daughter.
Punchline? Because there's a
No,
Punchline series
that was her.
coming
She was
out.
the Joker's daughter. That's
Okay.
what her character name is in DC. She's actually Two-Face's daughter, but she calls herself Joker's daughter, and she dresses up like the Joker.
Oh, I see. So she probably got that chemical maybe that was in was it Arkham City? Remember that?
Yeah, I'm
Arkham
not
City,
sure.
or the video game where like the Joker basically he's supposedly dead, but then the virus that makes the Joker was like inspiring like old Batman villains to come back out as like, you know, Joker-esque, you know. But yeah. Anyways, so there's so many storylines.
Then they have Carrie Kelly. That's one of the characters. And I think that's the female Robin, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Kara is the female Robin.
Carrie Kelly. And then they have the Rowe siblings. Harper Rowe, I remember from the comic book. It was before the Rebirth one. I guess it was part of the New 52 one. And she played a character, Bluebird, which I really liked, but they haven't brought her back. And then there's someone who plays Colin Rowe. So who, except for one of these, well, I guess two. Stephanie Brown's dad is that the jokester or what? I don't know. He's kind of like the Riddler, like a dollar store Riddler. I can't think of his name.
Oh, can I ask you a question? I don't know.
Yep.
You probably have more input in this because you've been deeper in the comic book lore for longer recently. I mean, when I was younger, I used to have it all up to date. But like, I watched the Guardians of the Galaxy special, and they have a reference to Batman with Kevin Bacon saying, you know, I'm Batman, right? And when he's like, be a hero or whatever, he's like, who's Batman? Bruce Wayne. And it's like right there in the Marvel universe. I wonder if they either have to pay DC something, or there's a constant sort of like, you know, sort of like nod and a wink. Because then in the comics they did it too.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where because they're using it like they don't have the character. What they're doing is using it like how we would talk about it. Like we don't have to pay DC because we mention it. But if we were going to have Batman on the show, you know, that might be a different thing.
Well, like there I don't know which comic we read. One of them was like one of the Marvel comics, and I guess somebody was like missing their team, and they're like, we need to get a team together, and they're like, who? Like the Cape Crusader? And it's like, who's the Cape Crusader? You know, and it's like right there in the comics. And I'm thinking like Marvel might, I don't know what their attitude is towards DC necessarily, but I do think there's a bit of like a tease that they always kind of have back. I mean, to a degree, back and forth. And when I was younger, I got all of remember when it was DC versus Marvel, they had like a 4-issue miniseries, and then they created this Amalgam Comics.
Amalgam.
Yeah, I was like, you want to have fun with the multiverse shit? Let's put out some Dark Claw and some Spider Boy, you know. The Justice, was it the
JSX?
Yeah, JSX. You know, I got all that shit.
Magneto and his Metal Men or something.
But I even got like up until that stuff, like the Age of Apocalypse, and so there's constant like storylines that they've you know dabbled with, but I think they would be really cool to like funk with the nature of what everybody expects out of these movies, and just really surprise everybody with like having just Ben Affleck make a cameo in the next Spider-Verse, you know, and be like, I don't know why I'm here, you know. Because
right after that, what you're talking about, I remember reading the thing. So it was like Marvel confirms that Batman is in the Marvel universe.
That's so funny. But I imagine it's more like something along the lines of like him being like a popular culture character,
yeah, so
right?
I mean, that there is that people in the Marvel universe know who Batman, you know, like the character is. So it might not be the person, Bruce Wayne, but at least they know there's a comic book of Batman.
Yeah. Oh, did Stan Lee turn 100? Was that why it's all like 100 years of greatness? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be Marvel Comics. I feel like whether or not they change their name or whatever, but the character is going to go on for so long that they're going to do like Stan Lee, 1,000 years old. Love you, buddy. You know.
Yeah. Well, Tracy Stone tells us to have a Merry Christmas. You too, Tracy.
Oh, hey, Tracy.
Or Happy Hanukkah for
Merry
Jonathan.
Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa kiss.
Yes, that. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to talk about before we get into the lovely books of the week. Oh, I know. Well, I was thinking no one else has really been here, so just be me and you. I wanted to talk about our favorite books from this past year.
Oh, cool.
So, like, I think we all enjoy Grimm.
Yeah.
Right? That's. I think that's probably our show's favorite book of this year. Issue 6 just came out this past Wednesday, so we'll be reading that. There was I should have wrote these down because I cannot.
Well, I mean,
remember
for
the
me,
book.
the overall series of the Axe storyline turned out to be like a really important.
Oh, that's
storyline.
right. You wanted to talk about that. You did finish it.
Yeah, I finished it.
Right.
And that's why I followed up with like the X-Men thing, because they're in this like transition period between the Axe storyline and the Dark Web storyline.
Yeah.
And thank God, like the MCU likes to keep its friggin' stories connected, and they do the fans the favor about putting the asterisks in there and stuff like that, I'm really excited to see in this current state, because you saw like that Sinister story that happened afterwards, where he's like basically doing like Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I think it leads into the next big X-Men storyline that takes place after Dark Web, which is Sins of Sinister.
Right. And I don't know what it worked out, where if he successfully killed Hope or not, ultimately, but I think that was like the goal of like that recent book we read, The Transition.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's just so much in the aftermath of that was really enlightening. I had no idea the sort of depth of the background of the Eternals and the Celestials, and like the detail of how Earth itself is a machine, and like Krakoa being a mutant too, like the actual island is a mutant.
Yeah, because that was the island from when they relaunched the X-Men with the Wolverine Storm team, like when Xavier, because that was the island that kind of captured the original X-Men. So he had to make the new team to go and rescue.
I always thought it was Genoa.
No, Genosha is the island nation where they have mutates, which are mutants that they kind of breed to be slaves.
Right. Which again brings me back to, I didn't really know as much depth about the deviants, and they pop into the Axe storyline, and I really was so grateful that they went into such detail into like Eros, and who was played by Harry Styles in the Eternals in the cameo. And then it was funny to me is like Eros seems really flamboyant in the comics.
He is.
And I'm like, I don't know what they're implying, but
he was like the god of love. Like it's so.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, he's Thanos' brother.
Yeah.
And the contrast between the two is really fascinating, because they keep bringing, it's like Thanos is like this specter that stands over no matter what, even though he's dead,
But but it also goes to the whole Thanos thing about balance.
Right.
So, you have Thanos that's way over here and he's like evil and then you have this guy that's all about love and peace and so they balance each other out.
Well, I mean, they do and they don't, when you have all these like random other Eternals causing drama, Druig and Uranos and these people like Cersei that are confused about what it means to be like associated with the gods or not, and then this whole thing about turning off their like firewalls to let Jean Grey like take over their powers and shit. I mean, it's so elaborate that if you're not paying attention, you can easily get lost.
Yeah. When I get into these big, massive crossover things, I always want to know, what does it change? Like what status quo has it changed? Like, so when it's over, if nothing changed, then what's the purpose of having this storyline?
Well, that's just it. It's like Magneto dies, I guess.
Well, the X-Men can't die. They bring them back to life. But the story, I think the whole reason for the story, it was an Eternal story, but they knew they couldn't sell an Eternal story. So they added the Avengers and the X-Men.
It really
The
is
whole
an Eternal
thing,
story.
It is, and it's about the Earth, because right before that is when humans found out that the X-Men could bring
You become
themselves back to
immortal.
life.
Yeah.
And so they hoped that it would make like this big thing where everyone would hate the mutants again. But then the humans find out that the Eternals can do the same thing, but theirs is worse because they have to kill somebody, a human, to come back.
Yeah.
So it's like selfish, where the X-Men do it and they're not hurting anybody. They're just bringing themselves back. And then partway through it, you see them revive Captain America.
Yeah.
And
that's when they make the exception.
You've always been told that it's only mutants that they can bring back. And then you find out, they can bring back humans. So at the end, I love that because they're like, people are going to hate us. Like, how can you hate us for, saving sick kids?
Right. But at the same time, you got like the mutants that are just like, they have to realize that they're not the superior race anymore. I mean, that was like the one constant theme with Magneto was he's, the mutants are homo superior. Right. And now they have to like take a back seat and be like, okay, these Eternals are literally telling us you are just human enough that we're not going to consider you deviant, but don't test us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And which is funny to me because the nature of the mutants becoming immortal was the thing that made the Eternals like, oh no, wake up. We don't want our thing taken away, or at least like shared in some way. And I honestly think that the what is it? The Avengers were the ones that got like the shaft on this storyline.
Yeah. And I like how they once again made Tony Stark the person whose fault it is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, he can't help, they can't, I don't know what it is with Marvel. Like they can't help but make him somehow parallel to Elon Musk all the time now.
It's always his fault. Like,
let's judge
so hard to do something good and then he screws it up.
Yeah, but it's so funny. It's like even Dr. Doom was involved at one point, and I'm like, I love how they brought in even just random things like this, and Dr. Doom gets judged, and it's like he already has such an ego that it's like
you can't judge me. I'm Dr. Doom. Like,
but that was like one of these moments where I sat there. I'm like, this fucking Celestial is capable of judging all the Eternals, but he comes across this, this human bombarded by gamma rays or bombarded by cosmic rays, and suddenly he gets all the respect. I mean, that's silly to me. I was thinking at the very least, if that happened, then Doom would come about and like have some sort of like, call to Galactus or some shit, something to like make it matter that he is so important.
The other one I like is when he judges Scott, and Scott's like, no one can judge me but my wife, and he just walks away.
Yeah.
What kind of balls do you have that you can just like talk to this god this way?
Right. I mean, like I was also confused like Professor X, and like he seems like he's not the same.
He's
Charles.
confusing. He's confused. He's really not. Like when they brought him back, he's not even. I don't know if it still is, but in the comic books, he's not even in his body anymore. That's why he can walk.
Yeah, that's the thing about
he's in the comic books when they brought him back. He was actually in Phantom X's body. Like he took Phantom X's body.
Can you do me a favor and tell me more about Phantom X?
He looks like Deadpool, but he wears all white. He's kind of that same type of attitude, and like but he's like French. And
is that his mutant power? Is similar to Deadpool? Can he come back?
Kind of, but he has this. I don't know. It's so weird.
I thought he was Latino. That's crazy. He's French.
No, he's French, and he's always like hitting on the girls. He's like a mix between Deadpool and Gambit. That's my take on him. but he has this ship, and it's not like a ship; it's a living thing, and it's connected to him somehow. Like it's very convoluted. Like
It
for
sounds
me,
like it.
because he was also. It was a time when he was brought around is when the X-Men books were not good, you know. And then he gets confused with Dr. Venom, who looks exactly like they both wear all white, and they came around the same time, so it gets a little confusing. But yeah, it was like I can't think of what series that was. It wasn't that long ago, and that's when Xavier like downloaded himself into Phantom X's body.
Okay, well, that
And then he
happened with
shaved
the.
his head. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. He can walk again, and there's just like the whole time he had Cerebro on in the entire Axe series, and I was really confused.
Because he's constantly there's more than one of those helmets. Like he has one. Um, what's her name? Hope has one,
Got it.
and one got stolen and made into the Cerebro sword.
Okay.
I don't know, but yeah, it gets a little weird.
I mean, they even alluded to like the Phoenix not really ever leaving Jean Grey. Like,
yeah, like she's like beyond the Phoenix now. I guess that's like
yeah, it's like Cyclops was like, it's always been in her, you know. And I liked when they had like Wolverine inside the Celestial, and they're like fighting like the antibodies of the Celestial, and like the friggin' judge, the progenitor or whatever, he was like, I like how you sent your. No, it wasn't him. It was somebody else who was like, you sent your pet or something, like your comfort creature.
Oh yeah, Wolverine.
Yeah.
Well, but so that's I think this year was really, yeah.
But I also wanted to point out that this year had a lot of cool varieties of independent comics, not related to like the mainstream DC Marvel world, that it really stood out. You know, Paper Girls, the what is it? Well, like not really that Texas Blood, but there was another one that we read that was really that stood out as far as like indie comics goes. But we really made an effort to look at things that you wouldn't normally look at, you know, and I just really wanted to say how much I appreciate having that opportunity. Because there's often times where I'd go to the store and I'd be like, ooh, I'd really love to read that title, but I don't want to drop that, cash on something I don't know. You know what I mean? I think that's a common thing for comics, where, and it's like that for movies too. Like, oh, I'm going to go see the sequel instead of going to see this new thing that I don't know anything about.
I'll wait till it comes out on whatever.
Yeah. Streaming
whatever
or something.
Streaming thing I have. Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I mean, it's fortunate because I also realized that a lot of that indie IP becomes some sort of like development deal with Netflix or Hulu or something, you know. And we saw a lot of, as far as that goes this year, we saw a lot of like attempts at doing original things related to like the majors, like Hitmonkey, you know, and MODOK.
Yeah.
And they all like flamed out. But
yeah. That's kind of like a couple years ago, DC tried to do that. What the heck is it called? You had mentioned it because it's on HBO Max. Powerless.
Yeah.
And that like really flamed out because no one knew it was a DC show. No one knew what it was about, and unless you were a big DC fan, you had no idea what that was.
Right, and there's examples of that, you know. Hold on a quick second. Let's bring up the books we're going to read, yeah?
All right,
Come here. Okay, technical difficulties.
I have.
Yeah.
I think I read all of my books. Oh, but 3. The one I really wanted to read, but I ran out of time. Because it took me an hour and a half to get the computer up and running.
Well, I read that long ass 100-page book that you had.
Did you? Did you read that? I think that was one of your picks, anyways.
It was beautiful, man.
Oh
The
no,
artwork.
the Kings of Nowhere. Yeah, that was Specs.
But thank you. I really, and
Yeah,
on that, I read the backstory on the end of that book also, where the guy was like doodling in class and he had no idea this would turn into something.
Yeah. So I'm gonna start with the books I read. Then we'll do the group books, and then we can finish with if there's any other books that you read. But the first book I read this week was from DC Comics.
Oh well, I mean,
what?
I'm here.
Oh, you said. Well, I mean, and I thought you were going to say something.
I was waiting for you to tell me about what you read. I read comics too.
Oh.
So like I said, like we can go through that whole list on the main page and then the group books too, and I'll see what I remember.
All right. Well, the first book I read this week was Sword of Azrael #5 out of 6 from DC Comics. It's written by Dan Waters. Art is by Nicola Sismaja. I don't know. I'm terrible at these names. Marissa Louise did the coloring, and Pablo McCollin. Oh, I'm sorry. Pablo McCollin and Nicola Sismaja does the art. So, anyways, so far in this book, we found out there was this other girl who was also programmed to be an angel, like John Paul Valley was, and John Paul Valley was trying to protect her from the Templars, but he failed, and they took her. So at the beginning of this book, we see her transformation into becoming an angel was complete. They have her in this like armor that kind of reminded me like stuff that's going on inside of it. The character Penance from DC and from Marvel. If you know anything about that, he's like encased in like a armor that has spikes on the inside, so he's always feeling pain. And that's kind of like her thing as an angel. She uses the pain as power.
Right.
And they make her into
like
this
Hellraiser.
Yeah. So she's made into this weapon for the Templars, like I said, like Azrael was for the Order of St. Dumas. And then in this book, we also meet Father Valley and his purpose in the whole Azrael, Jean Paul Valley situation. And also in this book, Jean Paul finally accepts that he always was Azrael. Like before this, he always thought he turned into Azrael. That way he could separate like the bad stuff that Azrael does is not him. It's,
this book kind of like being a priest or something, right?
Yeah, he's left the order and he's become a Christian. Right. So he's been trying not to be Azrael. Yeah. But he throughout the arc he's realized that he always was Azrael. He is Azrael and Azrael's him. He doesn't switch back and forth.
Yeah, and there's only like one allusion in that whole book to Batman. I realized that there's like only one moment where he alluded to like what that experience was like.
Yeah, when he was Batman. And then this leads into obviously the last issue of the book where it's going to be a showdown between these two angels.
Yeah, that's going to be cool.
Yeah, Azrael's always been one of my favorite characters. For a while, they really took him on his own kind of thing. They actually had a different character playing Azrael. It's good to come back, and it's Jean Paul Valley again. And
the original.
And hopefully this leads to... I just want to see what his costume looks like at the end of this, because I'm sure it's going to be changed.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like the thing with Azrael always reminded me a little bit of like if Spawn became Batman. With the chains and like the weapons he used and this like sort of vigilance that had no like fear of death kind of stuff, Yeah. And but it is definitely more in the I guess you'd say like the spiritual realm of the DC universe, because that they can always go back with Azrael and play with the Ra's al Ghul story, if they want to. But there's this whole constant. We go back to the immortality thing, like whether it's Ra's al Ghul or like the Saint Dumas keeping this guy alive for so long. There's just things that are supernatural that I think that this storyline plays with around Batman.
Yeah, which seems to be a lot with Batman. Like you see, like he has his street level people, and then he has this very mystic kind of
this other level of like people that are like. It's funny you think about like the Dark Knight, like he literally has shit in the darkness that we don't really like get to know about, and I don't know how all of his dates always end up turning into like characters themselves. Can't he just have one normal Tinder date? I was rooting for Vicky Vale, man. That was my favorite
from the movie. Yeah. So, who was in the other one? The one with Kim that was
Kim Basinger was Vicky Vale.
Vicky Vale. There's another one later on.
Oh, didn't Maggie Gyllenhaal try to be Vicky Vale?
No, she was. I don't know what her name was, but she was Talia al Ghul.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because that was
she had a different name, like she had a fake name, but by the end of it, you realize she was Talia al Ghul.
Side note: props to Christopher Nolan, man. He's worked with Cillian Murphy so long now. Cillian Murphy's playing Oppenheimer, and like Hollywood
looks such a good movie.
Which one?
Oppenheimer. I've been reading how they filmed the atomic explosion, because it's not digital; it's like a practical effect.
You think they really let him do it?
Well, he didn't set up a real atomic weapon, but it's a practical effect, and they use these prism cameras that I don't even know.
Oh man, I can't wait to see it. What's funny is the side note. Again, Jim Carrey said he doesn't really want to do as much acting in the future, but if Christopher Nolan came along and offered him something, he would do it. And I didn't know that was. I thought that was just like a joke, but it turns out that Jim Carrey was signed on to do a Howard Hughes movie with Christopher Nolan playing Howard Hughes, and then Scorsese's movie went into production first, so they had to scrap it. So there's actually a connection. And I think it'd be really cool for Jim Carrey to either do a Christopher Nolan movie with him as Ace Ventura, or a Christopher Nolan movie with him as the Riddler. Or like the Todd Phillips thing, where like instead of it being, like the Joker, but it's like the thing that created the Riddler.
Yeah, because he was already got that in the Batman. It depends on what your Riddler is.
Well, I thought all right. So look, Batman Forever wasn't actually like the greatest per se, but I did appreciate what he brought to the role. I thought he was better than Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh yeah, in his neon suits and. But when I think of Riddler, I always think of the Batman 66, but not in the green leotard that he wore later on, but when they first showed up in the suit.
First suit, like the jacket he had, yeah.
But I digress. The next book,
Tim Conroy, rest in peace.
Yes, which he is actually his last thing he's doing is a video game that they had him finish the voice work for. It's that Suicide Squad kills the Justice League. But my next book that I read this past week, I know we ended the last story arc, and I wasn't. So I know Specs was not a fan of this book, but I have become a fan of That Texas Blood. So I went ahead and read issue number 20. This is their Christmas issue. It seems like as I've gone back to look, they have these every once in a while, these one-shot books. Of course, it's by Chris Condon and Jacob Phillips. And this is, like I said, a one-shot story of the sheriff's son. And of course, if we remember the sheriff from the last book, obviously he's a little bit older. Because if you've never read this book, each story arc kind of changes in timeline. And they all change genre as well.
It's a very up and down book.
Yes.
The series, it seemed a little slow at first, but then it evolves into these different storylines that were really so many genres. Like I felt elements of True Detective in here, elements of like the creepiness of The Walking Dead without the zombies, the way that slowly, even Fargo elements. But I think overall this was very cool as far as like a gritty sort of like slice. I mean, I hate to say slice of life because there's killings in it, but the nature of it isn't surreal. Like I can imagine this happening in life instead of it being like, oh, it's a superhero.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not over the top. It's
right.
kind of. But in this story, it's about his son who got a thing of markers for Christmas, and he starts drawing these pictures, these different characters that he made up. And so he starts telling his dad the story of Two Gun Common, who's the mummy sheriff of Ambrose County, which Ambrose County is where all these stories take place. It's like a Wild West story, and it revolves around the sheriff rescuing his mummy wife from Wyatt Slurp, and that's a vampire that had lost his teeth. He fell in the mountain where he lives and broke off his fangs, so he replaced them with straws.
That's so funny.
So it's just the kid telling his parents this story that he wrote, like out of and he didn't even write it. He was just making it up as he went, and he's showing them the pictures. And it's just I mean, I don't even know how to explain it. It was a good like Christmas Western story, I guess. The character is funny, like because he's a mummy and he can talk, but his wife can't. She's just like, "Rah, rah," and he rescues her, and she like jumps on him and kisses him.
That's so funny.
It's and the vampire guy with the straws, these big long stuff for teeth. But now with issue 21, we'll go back to a new story arc. I'm not sure what kind of genre it is yet, but I'll be sure to check that out because I've sort of liked this as I've read stuff too. Like I read all the letters and stuff in the back, and like someone had mentioned when I was reading the letters in the back of this one, that last story arc that we read took place like in the dead of winter there, but we were reading it in the summer. And this person said, even though it's been hot outside, when I read this book, the artist and the writer have really made it to where you could feel it being cold. Like it just, it brought you into that storyline.
Yeah. You can feel when they do that right with the artwork and the writing, the emotion that the focus is on. It's really like they did it really, like I was thinking about that today. Like they did it really well, creating like a coldness within certain characters' stories that every time, I mean, it was just what we talked about. Every time either Mr. Sinister or Thanos walks into a panel, it's like I can feel the air get sucked out of the room for whatever they're about. You know what I mean? So these writers are phenomenal at creating tone.
Yeah. The next book I read is Earth Divers #3 from IDW. This is what's her name? Stephen Graham Jones is the artist. I mean, is the writer. Davad Gianfelice is the artist. Joanna Lafuente is the colorist, and Steve Woods does the lettering. This is the book where there's Native Americans in the year 2112, and the world is pretty much, or at least America, is going to crap. They blame it on Christopher Columbus. If he had never came here, none of this would have happened. So they discover this cave that lets you travel back in time somehow. And the one named Tad, who actually could speak different languages and all this, he's the one they decide to send back. And his job is to kill Christopher Columbus before he gets there.
They took out the Pinta, I think it was.
Yeah, one of the ships. And so finally, they discover that he's like took out a ship, so they have him captured. But this story mainly takes place in 2112, and it's specifically with Emily and this new character Martin, who is a Native American, and he's wearing this like wolf face.
Yeah.
So in the other two issues, you saw glimpses of this wolf character. He wasn't sure what's going on, but so you finally reveal Martin, and he's actually he's in this time, and he knows things that are going to happen ahead of time. So you're wondering, what in the world? And he's he's at this time also with his younger self. The younger self had twin boys that went missing. he goes and searches for him. He ends up going into the cave, and he gets sent back in time like 30 years. So now he's like 30 years older, and he's back, and he's giving this message to Emily that she needs to. This is her time to do something, and she has no idea what it's supposed to be. But it's I don't know. This is the third issue of this book. I really want to like it. It's just really hard. Like, especially I think it's a limited series. I think, or it's not. It's like story arcs. Like each story arc. I guess because it's book one and it's going on from there. But it's been hard to understand because like the boy, the Blackfoot kid, he died in like issue 2 on the boat. Like, so it's like, how is he in the future? And so it's a lot of that stuff.
Well, can I say something?
Yeah.
Well, two things. One, the cave time travel thing. I thought it was original, and then I remember that I saw this movie Palm Springs with Andy Samberg, where it's a time loop movie, and every time he dies, he wakes up or whatever, or he gets drunk, wakes up. It's a Groundhog Day story, but initially he has to go through like a magic cave that has him time travel. And like whoever goes with him gets stuck in the loop with him, so he gets like J.K. Simmons accidentally to go there and he gets stuck in the loop. But like that's the one reference to that. But like in the nature of this book itself, it's got this sort of like overarching feeling of a commentary on Native American culture and the results of Columbus, conquering or invading America and everything. And I almost feel like this is like a sort of a big, sort of fantasy for Native Americans in a way. Like what could we do if we could do something to prevent like polio and all the bullshit and the Trail of Tears and all that? Let's just go back to like and in that respect, you're like, oh my God, they could probably stop. I don't think America itself, the label of America,
No, because somebody else would have just.
Yeah. But the idea of these people assuming kind of like, the idea of like, if you could go back and kill Hitler, would you, and they play with that and all like the different time travel stuff, like Loki talks about it. And there's this thing within this book though, that it's not heavy handed with like the social justice ideas, but you definitely get like the vibe that this was written by Native Americans for Native Americans. And even the cover art, I don't know if you looked at the back, the variants or whatever, were so like covered with like some religious symbols and like the savagery of it all, and like choking like Columbus. You could tell that the people involved in this project really were trying to like add like a new sort of angle to the Columbus story that we've never really thought about. But the reality is I'm sure plenty of Native Americans want to seek revenge, and this story does a really good job about setting. I mean, yeah, there's some confusion, like the guy that's stuck in the boat, Yeah.
Yeah, in the end where one of the goats from Thor Love and Thunder shows up.
Yeah. What?
So, yeah. I mean, I'm going to keep reading it because I'm a history person and I want to
Me
see
too. Like, please, I want to read this as well. I feel like it's got, so like, remember Marvel 1402? Was it, or 1602 or whatever it was?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So like, even though like all of the characters were like relative to our Marvel heroes, it was drenched in history, the Salem witch trials and all the stuff that was going on at that time, and like accusing the mutants of being witches, and like they did a really good job in that respect. This one I feel like is great because kind of like What If, you know what I mean? Like you get an opportunity to really appreciate what might happen if Native Americans had more power.
Yeah, the one thing I liked about this, and especially in this issue, the little stuff we did see of Tad, I don't know if it's supposed to be that he doesn't understand the way the people would react to certain things, but when he's like, you take what date is it? You take me above, and I'll show you something that proves you that who I am. Like,
Yeah.
and he knows because there should be a comet on this date and stuff. So he takes them up and like, look, there's this, and now they're all scared of him. They think he's Satan because he knew.
Yeah,
that,
it's not like in America, or not America, in like our time, we would be like,
Yeah.
oh, that's physics, or something.
Yeah.
That would be
Or
like
like, how did
explainable.
you know that was? And they're like scared to death of him because
Yeah,
he just told us the sky was gonna catch on fire at this certain time. So and of course,
I don't know. It's really.
prison.
I love that Columbus is the villain, but in the same way, they're also painting him in the historical location that they appear at as kind of being the victim to these people. And so I want to keep reading because I'm certain that like if they do it right, I mean if they do it in the vein that they seem like they're doing it so far, you'll really get to see like the actual sort of history, because that.
And we know that he has made an impact because Martin tells them, like in the journals, he's mentioned in Columbus's journals. So you know that he's made an impact at least to where Columbus would talk about him. So,
but that's the loop of it all. The crazy part is like if Columbus didn't do what he does, and they don't find the cave because they kill him, how is it possible for them to go back in time at all?
Yeah, it's that.
It's a paradox.
Yes,
I love time travel stories, man.
They're the best. Those and alternate history. I love.
Alternate history like Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Slayer. There's one now called Harriet Tubman, Demon Slayer. These are so much fun.
Like I have the book, the sequel to Abraham Lincoln, and I don't remember the name of it. Dang, it's over there with all my books. But
Vampire
the cover
Slayer.
of it. No, it's the sequel to this.
I see. To this book?
To that book, to the Abraham
book.
Lincoln Vampire Slayer. And on the cover, it's that famous picture, like after the like World War II or whatever, with the sailor and he's kissing the.
Yeah.
But they're like a monster, like a zombie or a vampire.
It's a spoof.
Yeah, it's just like that. But it's the next.
Well, that reminds me of Watchmen, and like alternate history, But yeah, no, I think that this story specifically, like they're doing all this bullshit about critical race theory in the world or whatever, and I'm like, fine, you know what? Screw it. You guys want to be all weird about it? Take it out of the textbooks and just let the comic books teach these kids. Like I was like realizing that like social media is probably like the worst place to like get news, And then I thought about it like, oh, actually, I wouldn't have known anything about climate change if it wasn't for Saturday morning cartoons and Captain Planet,
Yeah. It's true. Hey, did I ever tell you how when I was in high school, our teacher had this like, I don't know, he was good for giving us prizes. And he would ask, like, he was our history teacher, but he would ask questions that had nothing to do with history, really. So he asked the Phoenix, the Phoenix, is it? Not the Phoenix, the Sphinx's riddle. Do you know the Sphinx's riddle?
Yeah. It's like what walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the afternoon, and 3 legs at night.
Yeah. So I knew right away, and I answered it. And everyone in the class was like, "How did you know that? Like what?" And then Mr. Perlos is like, "How did you know that?" I said, "Oh, when I was little, that was on an episode of Super Friends. The Sphinx asked Batman and Robin, and that was the answer."
Yeah. That's, but they don't even realize how educational comics can actually be.
Yeah.
The benefit of this stuff, and some of these really awesome philosophical questions that people ask themselves, the luxury of having the ability to just have like a blank canvas and take all these characters and go through some of these like harder mental issues. If it wasn't for like X-Men, I wouldn't have any concept of what a menage a trois was, thanks to Cyclops and Jean Grey and Wolverine, like, but for example,
I think it's more than that, but we ain't gonna touch that.
I know. I got to add some humor to this thing. I know what my job is.
Well, the next book that I read on my list was Captain America: Sentinel of Liberty #7 from Marvel. Jackson Lansing's the writer. Oh, with Colin Kelly. Carmen Carnero is the artist. Nolan Woodard does the colors, and VC's Joe Carmaggio does the lettering. And now, last week I told you about the Captain America Winter Soldier book that kind of tied up, not really tied up, but moved this outer ring storyline forward, where Bucky has taken over the role of the new Revolutionist. And this is Steve dealing with that, the aftermath of this, and trying to put an end to the outer circle. At the same time, they've realized all the AIM scientists and everything AIM is doing in the world has gone silent. So they've gone, like, even the people in Shield, like they have, people in AIM, and they've lost contact with them. So this is, kind of blending these stories, like what's happening with AIM. So
this whole thing is a simulation story. The whole story is a simulation story, right? The robots of Red Skull, the idea.
Oh no, that's all out Avengers.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, and so Sharon Carter comes back in this issue.
Yeah. This is where they bring them all together in like that underground.
Yeah, and he makes a team. So he's making a team to deal with the outer circle, and
again, they keep it tied into the Marvel universe when they talk about Nick Fury. Like, I'm surprised you survived that whole Stones thing. Who was the other person in the room? That wasn't Crossbones. Who was?
Which one?
So there was, there was Sharon Carter, there was Black Widow, there was Hawkeye, there was Nick Fury, Peggy Carter. Which I'm going to bring that up in a second because I thought he had fucked Peggy Carter, but then he's also having sex with Sharon Carter. So like there's some weird. I thought that was his daughter or niece or something. So there's some incestual shit going on with Captain America. But there was another person in the room, like a bigger character.
He was also one of the points on the star, and Steve, like, he was actually sent to kill Steve, but Steve, like, got into his head, kind of, how Steve has a tendency to do, and showed him what he was doing was wrong. And now he wants revenge on the outer circle for what they did to him. They made him into that, like, liquid metal thing.
Okay.
So I don't remember what his name was. Oh, that's the Destroyer.
The Destroyer. Oh yeah, that's the new Destroyer.
Yeah, the new Destroyer.
Yeah, because the old Destroyer was there too, right? The old guy.
Yes, which he was. He had a different name during the Invaders. So, but this storyline is called The Inverter. So, and we see Namor at the beginning. He brings Steve back his shield. But
that's such a great back and forth. That opening dialogue with him.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm too busy to help you. Sorry.
Yeah, and he goes, but now because he needed people who could operate in the dark. That's what he said.
You're right.
Steve couldn't do it because he's too, he's like the light side, and Bucky's always been the dark side.
Question.
So,
Rocket gets Bucky's arm for a Christmas gift. Do you think that will have a connection into Winter Soldier and Falcon and Winter Soldier? Do you think they'll bring that back up?
I don't know. That was actually from when Bucky, like, the blip. Okay. That's all that was left of Bucky was his arm, remember?
Yeah.
And so that's where they got it, to give it to Rocket for a Christmas gift.
So Bucky's the villain in this storyline, though, like this.
No, he's still trying to. He's trying to take them down from the inside, but it's, he's.
Sounds like he got confused though. Like the way it set it up is like he was supposed to try to do something for them, and then it ended up he got
because he was one of the points on the star, and the way the outer circle works is if you kill one of the, I can't remember.
Yeah, you take over.
You take their spot. So Bucky killed him in the last episode. I mean, last issue, and that's how Captain America got shot, because Bucky wanted to kill him, and Cap got between them, so he shot through Cap's shoulder to kill the guy,
Yeah.
to kill the revolution. So, and that's
And then,
if you read.
so now Bucky is the new Revolution.
Yeah, he's the new revolution.
Got it.
And they control like everything in the world. Like they all have like their own part of it.
But they're bigger than AIM. They're bigger than Hydra. They're bigger than Shield. Like this whole thing is like something like you want to talk about deep state. This is massively different.
If you read that Bucky and the Winter Soldier book, it explains it so well. Like how there's the inner circle is this group of people, the outer circle is this. Then that next circle is like the governments, and their job is to protect this circle, while this circle is meant to protect this circle. And then the outer circle is, the ones who control.
Do me a favor and load that up so I can read it. I don't know if you already did.
No, it should still be in there, but under last week's books.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, old books.
Cool.
Yeah. It should still be in there. That was the last of my personal books I read. I know I had a couple other on my list, but I didn't get to. But so we have 3 group books that the whole group was to read this
week. So those were great. Predator, teenage. Was it like it's a Teenage Wasteland?
Yeah, so it's only Teenage Wasteland. It's issue number 1 from Dark Horse. Kurt Pines is the artist. Is the writer. Jacoby Salcido does the art. Micah Myers does the lettering, and I can't read my own writing for the colorist. Last name's Dale, maybe Mark Dale. When I first seen this book I saw the title, I was like, "Oh, that looks like an interesting book. Let me go look through it." So I'm looking through it, and I'm like, I don't know. Like if I want so this was actually the last group book, and I think one of you guys actually picked it as your books you wanted. It was you. You picked it as one of the books you wanted to read.
Yeah, because I like the title. I went and read it, and it's the same story as the TV show Daybreak on Netflix.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It was the notes I put. It's a high school teen drama that turns into the end of the world. It has a nice setup for the characters because it starts off in the future. Then he's like, "Well, let me tell you how this all started." So they go back to school, and it felt very much like the pilot episode of a teen drama show on like the CW that I would watch the crap out of.
Yeah, it's like Roswell. Something.
Javi is the main character, and his friends. They're not the cool kids at school,
except for the one guy.
Yeah, well, he's
the rainbow-colored hair guy.
Yeah, so he decided to have a party when his parents go out of town, and he just needs to convince his older sister to let them have the party.
Scott's coming,
and it's just all the usual cliches that you get from these movies. Like, you had let me see, what was it? You had the popular girl who had sex with the fat nerd kid. You have the bullies show up and they start fights with the nerdy kids, and then somehow a bunch of high school kids manage to buy kegs of beer.
Yeah, this is if it's not for the nuclear explosion, this is like a modern Freaks and Geeks. They totally have it set up where they have like the one weirdo kid that they're friends with. They're
like the not popular kids. Then they have the one friend he doesn't even fit in with their group, so he's like
he's like autistic. And it's just so funny because it's like the nature of this totally feels like it's just going to be its own version of Riverdale or something, but then the very end of it sets it up. So like I said, I don't know if you saw that Netflix show Daybreak with Matthew Broderick.
Yeah.
But this is like, they take it seriously almost, you know what I mean? And I don't know, the artwork is kind of corny, but I do appreciate that they have those like little moments, like the hearts in the eyes for the girl when she sees Scott's coming and all that.
Yeah.
And the color is pretty nice too.
Yeah, it's a simple color. Like it's one thing I always check out. The color fits the art style. It's not overly rendered. It's pretty much flat colors with just some shadowing.
Yeah.
But I actually really end up liking this book.
Yeah.
So much so that I went back and added it to my pull list,
Oh, nice.
so I can have it, because it seems like a book that definitely could be turned into something,
Right.
and it I don't know how to explain, like, I haven't seen anywhere if it's a limited run of, or if it's a,
Miniseries.
yeah, if it's a miniseries or if it's a full series. And there was a little book that I got on the same way. I didn't hear much about it or anything, um, but I like zombies, so I picked it up, and now it's worth a lot of money.
Which book was that?
The Walking Dead.
Oh, you picked. Oh, that's why. Yeah. No, I get
Yeah,
that.
I have the whole Walking Dead run.
That was me with like Secret Wars when I was a kid. I was like, well, I paid $50 for this Secret Wars #8. I might as well get the rest of them. And I got like all the Secret Wars #1 and 2, all from like the 80s when they released them all. And I found out like way after the fact that because I went ahead and got every single tie-in and every single element of that entire series, that collectively it's like worth a ton of money.
Yeah.
And we're going to see that rise way up in value when they get to the Secret Wars Avengers. I don't know how they're going to do it. They've combined like 3 of the major like Marvel events of all time into like the next series of Marvel movies, and King and Secret Wars are both massive events. The Scroll thing is another massive event. So I don't know how they're going to do it effectively. Is that Specs?
No, it was my phone, wherever it's at. But the next group book that we had read was Dark Web #1.
Yeah.
From Marvel. Zeb Wells, Adam Kubert, Frank Martin on the colors, and VC's Joe Caramagna again on letters. This is the beginning of the Madeline Pryor, Ben Riley. They took stuff from us. We want it back. So we're going to destroy New York City to get it.
Well, I love this. The story calls back to me when I was a kid. I was one of the few people that like really loved the Clone Wars, the Clone Saga, excuse me. And I got all those books and I really got into it. And people were like, oh, I hate this. I want it to be over. Please, there's too many clones. And I was like, no, it's so fascinating. Look what they're doing with Peter Parker, who's deciding to like run away as Ben Riley and take Mary Jane with him in this elaborate situation where nobody's totally sure who's who, and they go through all these different circumstances where like Peter Parker gets killed, and Ben Riley gets killed and then brought back, and the Green Goblin, and like the nature of Chasm, the character that Ben Riley now plays instead of Scarlet Spider is so perfect for like the fractured background that he has. Like the costume is really cool. And I'm fascinated because I never wanted him to be a villain, but they wrote it in such a way where I could totally understand his grievances of kind of like being just him and Madeline Pryor both sort of like just tossed aside.
Yeah. But when I was reading it, the opening scene is great where he's in that dream and Peter's like taking all of his stuff, like takes his hair, takes his lips, takes his eyes, takes his brain. He's like, this is mine. I'm taking it back. This is mine. But I haven't really followed a whole lot of Ben's story recently. And who took his memories? Like they took all of Peter's memories out, but they left him Ben's memories.
Right.
So
but that's
he doesn't have that Uncle Ben conscience in his head, and that's why I think it's. And he knows he's missing some memories, so it's like, what? Did Madeline Pryor take his memories?
I don't know, but I do think Madeline Pryor like set him up to be malleable, to like be an ally.
Because you see them do that to somebody else at the end of this issue,
right?
And they revert back to being evil because they took all of their current memories.
I mean, she put together her little team or whatever, and what realized for me was that this was actually Peter Parker going insane is when Venom appears, and he knows straight out the gate who Peter Parker is, no doubt. So, and he actively wants to kill Peter Parker. And so he's got to like come to terms that he's going to be working with Madeline Pryor. But as an audience member, as a fan, you're like, holy shit. If you think about it, this is Peter Parker going evil, actually, because that's who Ben Riley actually is. He's the real deal. And I didn't think that they maybe were like doing that. Maybe they were going to get to an idea where it was another clone that we're looking at. But no, it's actually because of the way Venom reacts. That's what we know.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, and she makes him insane. And like you saw that in a previous issue, I think, where it was like he was dealing with these like hallucinations. He doesn't have, was that Peter Parker that didn't have his powers or something? We read in a previous book.
Yeah, that's the Lost Hunt.
Right, the Lost Hunt. I don't know if those are connected, but they seem like they're connected. Okay,
no,
they should be.
It's just they're showing you what happened between, this time. Marvel has a lot of those books now where they're going back to their popular times, like in the 90s, and filling in holes in the stories.
How'd you feel about Dark Web?
So far, I like it. Like I said, I haven't really followed a whole lot of this, and it seems more like a Spider-Man crossover. The X-Men just happened to be in New York City,
right,
during the holidays. So it's like wrong place, wrong time.
It was such a great moment to see like Cyclops attacking these random monsters and stuff.
Yeah. My favorite part of the whole thing. I love interaction between characters that like you don't really think about, and so how it's Havoc and Firestar and Iceman. They're walking through the crowd, and Iceman's like, "This ain't no like." He's yelling because she's like too hot, and he's Iceman. So he's
and they're
yelling,
too close to each other.
Yeah, and he's like, "This isn't how it's supposed to be." And then Alex is back there like, "It's freaking cold," and she's like, "Well, just move closer." And then he's like, "Oh, this is better." Like Iceman's like, "It's winter. It's supposed to be cold."
Well, I mean, Iceman's one of my favorite characters. He's the Omega. Oh my god, I like that they keep their interplay still current.
Yeah,
and that's what you see on this is like each of these characters is so heavily drenched in backstory that they, as a fan, get to do all these crazy inside jokes that only like people that have followed consistently might like appreciate. But really, at the end of the day, it's just elements like fire and ice don't mix, especially in a crowded New York space.
But I've always loved when they do this, like, because Firestar, even though we've always known since Spider-Man's Amazing Friends that she was a mutant, she's never been on an X team. Like, she's never even been in X books.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, she's not really ever been a part of the X-Men stories before. She was part of the New Warriors, but
right,
she was never. But now she's in this X-Men team with Iceman, and now they're going to be in a crossover with Spider-Man. So we best see a page or like a scene of Spider-Man's Amazing Friends.
Oh yeah, exactly. Come on.
It's right just there for you. It's perfect.
They teed it up.
Yeah. So
I love that.
But I know this week we have two more books that tie into this. X-Men Dark Web X-Men #1 and Amazing Spider-Man 15 both are out. I put the list on the group page. Even though we won't have a show next week, we're still going to be reading books. So when we come back after the holidays, we'll stay up to date.
We got to stay current.
Yeah. And the last book that I had read this week was our other team book, Predator #5 of 6 from Marvel. It's Ed Brinson, Kevin Walters, the artist, Frank Diamarta does the colors, and VC's Clayton Coles is the letterer, and Linnell Francis Yu has done all the covers on this book. The company, I can't remember the name of it, that Theta's parents worked for in the first issue. At the end of the last issue, they saved Theta. They killed a walker. Listen to me. I still have. They killed a predator and saved her. And in this issue, they have captured her because she had their ship, like their property, the Sandpiper.
Right.
And they want to know like how she was managed to like keep it going for 15 years. It was only meant to go to this place and back to Earth.
Right.
So they don't understand. In the meantime, then they discover who she is. And she's trying to escape. While she's trying to escape from them, a predator shows up seeking revenge. shows up to seek revenge for her killing over 20 predators.
All of her own trophies are in there too.
Yeah. So, like I said, this is issue 5 of 6. So, obviously, the next issue, we're going to see the big throwdown in between Theta and the predator that killed her parents. I assume that's what predator that is, even though they didn't show it to us. I just want to know what they're going to do with this afterwards, because I know the Alien books, they've keep making like new story arcs. So there was Alien, then Aliens, and now they're in Alien again.
Well, I do want to add to the point where in the middle of this book, they list like the timeline and they go through the Predator movies and they show where we're at today. And I really appreciated them doing little like the summaries of like the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie and the recent Predators movie and like the one that they had before with like Topher Grace or whatever. They made it all
they say show you. And even in this book, in this issue, they refer back to Prey, if you noticed.
Yeah.
Because they start talking about, all the times that the Predator has come to the Earth, and they said the earliest we have is from 1700.
Yeah. Oh yeah, even far back. I'm like, I want to read that book. I want to see that movie. That would be wild.
Prey. Have you watched Prey?
Oh, okay. No, I haven't. So that's what happens. It's in the 1700s.
Well, it's like it's Native Americans.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. I'll have to check it out because I was following this one and I thought there might be a connection, but I hadn't seen Prey yet.
They actually, this issue 1 came out the same week as Prey did.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, that makes sense. They tied it in. Oh well, I know the money, the value of the first Predator that had ever come out went through the roof when Prey came out. So I guess they're setting up for a lot of new cool stuff.
Yeah, I was always kind of iffy, like, because, when Marvel managed to get Fox, they got the rights to all these things like Aliens and Predator and the Terminator and all those things. So I was kind of iffy about it. But I think so far, like, I've been reading the Aliens books and the Predator books, and I think they're doing a pretty good job with it. They're not like kind of like they did with Conan until the very end when they decided to make Conan into the Marvel Universe.
Right.
But, they've been good at even the Star Wars stuff, keeping it separate. Like, we're not seeing the X-Men show up in Star Wars.
No. Well, like Disney Plus put all that money into Doctor Who, and now I'm expecting to see that crossover somehow.
Well, we already did because Doctor Who was the Purple Man in.
Oh well, the Peter Capaldi was in one of the Marvel movies.
Was he?
Morbius.
Oh, but I was talking like if you ever watched Jessica Jones.
Oh yeah.
Main villain.
Yeah. David Tennant was in that. Yeah. Sure. I mean, that's like Harry Potter or Patrick Stewart was like, I'm the only English actor not in it.
Well, Patrick Stewart doesn't do much anymore. So.
Right.
So some of the other books that we had, which I don't know which ones you had wanted to read Avengers Assemble Alpha #1. I had no idea what that was. So I did but then earlier today I was going through, I was like, oh, it's just Avengers number this. So that's
right.
So you said, did you read Immortal X-Men #9?
Which was because I did read one of the X-Men.
That's the one with the Sinister
one where it was trying to kill everybody.
Yeah.
I read that one and it was pretty silly. It was reminding me of Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise, where he keeps dying and trying to restart and get this thing right, and he can't quite figure it. It's kind of funny. But it's also one of these things where you're at the end of it going, how does any of this not like reset all the other people on the planet? They keep doing this, and I would think at some point would have the Watcher or somebody step in and be like, hey, stop that.
Well, the Watcher's not around anymore. The Watcher's dead. Oh
God, yeah, that's right. Ultron.
No,
wasn't it?
No, it was. Was it Bucky? But the original Nick Fury, the white Nick Fury, he lives on the moon and he's the Watcher now. Like
I see.
He's the Watcher on the gate or something like that. Yeah.
Well,
they did a whole storyline. Who killed the Watcher?
Right. Well, I only wanted to. I mean, I'm kind of disappointed because I was hoping Specs would be here. I really wanted to get into like the Thanos, and the nowhere that he picked. Was it
Yeah.
the
The Thanos book, I didn't get to read it, but I've heard a lot of people talking about it and how good it was.
What I'm asking, if it's possible, is to wrap up this episode early and plan for the next episode in advance between the episodes to have an idea of the things that we want to go through with the stuff with Specs here too, because there's a lot of stuff that I think would be great to have him involved when we discuss it. And I'm going to keep reading the next books if you're okay with because I'm really I think we covered so much so far.
Yeah. Did you read Gargoyles #1?
Of course I did.
What did you think? I've heard mixed things about it. I
Well,
haven't read it myself yet.
They bombarded in this book so much exposition, so much backstory for you to like, okay, we're here now. That like if you're not a fan of the original TV show or the original stuff that the source material, you may not like understand all of it. But they did a decent job, I think, of like going, okay, so this is a half zombie, half gargoyle. This is a vampire. They did these little like things so that you were like, okay, I don't know who your total backstory is, but I know enough that these two people are together, and they'll even say, yeah, they're together, don't ask, and it's sort of like tongue in cheek. They don't even take themselves seriously as the writers on some level. But
the writer is actually the creator of the Gargoyles show.
Well, and it's Disney, and so like they still find this like cutesy kind of element to it that's almost like a Hallmark rom-com with gargoyles,
Yeah, like I heard that one of the criticisms of it is that spend too much time explaining to us who's in a relationship with who. Like
right, that's exactly what it is.
This, and then he says it's kind of like a mafia story.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to do a mafia story in a kid's book because you can't like really touch on mafia stuff.
Even the narrator was like, the whole thing was just like her love of Goliath, and like, oh yeah, so my boyfriend, turns into stone every morning, and so it had vibes that I guess you can say is like kind of like The Godfather, and Goliath would be like, Corleone. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We'll see where it goes. Maybe they like make it darker because that's what I appreciated about the potential for gargoyles. But at the end of the day, the animation is still pretty Disney.
Yeah, so I think that was it. Because you said you didn't read that, and we talked about that. That. Yeah, because then there was Specs books. Oh no! Did you read that Dark Crisis book? I didn't get the chance to.
I didn't get to it yet because I want to read this week. I want to read all the Dark Crisis, and then read that one last.
Yeah, but we'll be off for the holidays. We probably won't be back, I'm thinking, until January 13th.
Okay. Is that the new title?
Friday. We're going to change some things around. We will have segments, I guess is the best way to explain it.
Cool.
One of the segments, because I think we're going to get me and Katrina's going to kind of like bring her like our show into this show, so we kind of combine them. So there'll be a segment where I bring on an indie creator to interview, but it'll just be a short 15-minute like segment kind of thing.
Yeah,
cool. We don't want the show to go like forever.
All right.
So we probably won't be showing like Kickstarter stuff. Like we'll talk about it, but I'm not going to go through the whole Kickstarter thing,
right? Because
that just takes too much time. But we're also going to look for other people like guests. So I want to have a guest on every week.
Cool.
It all depends. Like, and also, like I told you, we're not going to be live. I mean, you'll still be able to watch the show here.
Right. We're pre-recording.
We're going to be pre-recorded. So it lets us have some more flexibility so the show can air at the same time on the same day every time. So it'll air that Friday night, but we'll probably record it earlier in the week.
Yeah, but we can have fun with it.
Yeah. We can even do like pre-recorded segments.
Well, yeah, in that respect, I can come back saying that I've, got some stuff from a new Comic Con that I went to or something like that.
Yeah.
And really get some cool new information.
Yeah, because when I go to conventions, I'm going to start interviewing some people while I'm there, like pre-recording it. and then we can show it on the show that week, and stuff like that. So
sounds good.
So everybody have a good holiday, whatever your holiday is. I know Jonathan's going to go get some presents for the next 8 days.
Yeah.
And light some candles.
Thank you. You can come over and you can test all my toys out.
And you can spin a dreidel.
Yeah.
Do you have to wear your yarmulke?
No, that's not part of the process for Hanukkah.
Oh.
Well,
I'm just going off of the Adam Sandler songs and.
Yeah.
You know,
O.J. Simpson, not a Jew.
Let's say. But you know who is? All Three Stooges. Oh, that's right. Hall of Famer Rod Crew. So you know that's a Hanukkah song, but you did not know that 8 Crazy Nights was a Hanukkah movie?
No, I know. It's definitely a Hanukkah movie.
What other Hanukkah movies are there? I was thinking about that the other day.
It's very limited.
Yeah, it's very. I bet you could find some on those streaming channels that nobody watches.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's got to be a Hallmark Hanukkah movie. I'm certain.
For sure. But so everyone just have a good holiday and a safe New Year. We'll be back on the air on. That's Friday, January 13th. I just realized that.
Yeah.
So,
well, that'll be fun and spooky.
Yeah, that'll be the first Friday 13th of the year. We'll be back.
There you go.
Hopefully we're going to, and the show is probably going to change titles. We're thinking of 3 men in a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So that way we can not just focus on comic books, but we can focus on whatever.
Yeah.
So have fun. We will.
All right, brother. Happy holidays. Have a great New Year, and I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.